order this regular meeting of the Page County School Board.
Ms. Alger?
Yes.
Mr. Panger?
Yes.
Ms. Bryant?
Yes.
Ms. Livingston?
Yes.
Ms. Gordon?
Yes. Please pause for a minute of silence as we prepare for the meeting tonight. And I would ask that you keep Mr. Oberfeld and his family in your thoughts and prayers as his mother passed on March 23rd at the age of 102, I would say, which is fantastic. We stand. I'm going to ask Miss Scarlett McLeod to join me up here, up front, and she's going to lead us in the pledge after we. Miss Sullivan Smith, read a little bit about.
This evening, I have the privilege and honor of introducing our student pledge leader, who is from Shenandoah Elementary School. And I wore orange and black tonight to honor her and Shenandoah Elementary. Oh, yeah. Okay. This evening's Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Scarlett McLeod. Scarlett is a fifth grader at Shenandoah Elementary School and is the daughter of Colt and Lane. Scarlett is a dedicated and kind-hearted student who truly enjoys coming to school, especially because it means spending time with friends. A passionate athlete, an artist, she loves playing sports, creating art, and staying active with her classmates. Academically, Scarlett is an AB Honor Roll student and a member of the Gifted and Talented, or GT program. She has a strong love for science, which she enjoys hands-on experiments and discovering new things. She also appreciates having Mrs. Comer as a teacher and describes the educators at Shenandoah Elementary as the nicest ever. Scarlett is a proud member of the Color Guard and participates in chorus, using her talents to represent Shenandoah Elementary. She is known for being responsible, paying attention, helping others, and knowing when to listen. To her, responsibility means keeping promises and following through on commitments. She believes that working hard now will help her achieve great things in the future. A natural leader with a sharp mind and a great sense of humor, she dreams of either playing professional sports or becoming a lawyer. Perhaps inspired by her experience in the GT program, where she successfully argued that Goldilocks was guilty of breaking and entering. Thanks to her strong case, Goldilocks was sentenced to 5 years of community service.
Well done.
When asked for advice to younger students, Scarlett encourages them to try your best in everything that you do and to always be themselves, rather than worried about what others think. Wise words from someone who knows how to win an argument. With her kindness, determination, and leadership, Scarlett truly represents the best of Shenandoah Elementary. Scarlett, thank you for being a responsible student, kind to others, and serving as a role model. Congratulations on being selected as the pledge leader for Shenandoah Elementary School. We are very proud. Congratulations.
Now, if everybody stands, Scarlett's going to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great job. Thank you, Scarlett. And you all are more than welcome to stay with us for the rest of this meeting, but you are also more than welcome to leave if you would like.
I think it'd get some ice cream.
Yes.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Dr. Fox, are there any agenda changes or additions?
I do not have any tonight.
Have a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll make a motion, we approve the agenda as presented.
Need a second?
Second.
With a motion by Ms. Alger and a second by Mr. Painter to approve the agenda as presented.
Ms. Alger?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Ms. Bryant?
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to certify that personnel matters discussed in closed session pertain to Section 2.2-3711A and 2.
Second that.
A motion by Ms. Sullivan Smoot and a second by Mr. Painter to certify personnel matters discussed in closed session.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Ms. Bryant?
Yes.
Ms. Alger?
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes. Any citizen comments?
Mr. Hopkins, would you mind, can you just go see if there's anybody out front?
And we can come back to it, okay? All right, can I have a motion to open the public hearing for the superintendent search?
I make a motion that we open up discussion for superintendent search public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Sullivan Smoot and a second by Ms. Alger to open the public hearing for the superintendent search.
Ms. Bryant?
Yes.
Ms. Alger?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes. This one maybe. This is the last public hearing.
Unless you choose.
Okay. All right, it doesn't appear to have anybody with them. Okay, can I have a motion to close the
Make a
public,
motion that we close the public hearing for superintendent search.
Second.
a motion by Mr. Painter and a second by Ms. Alger to close the hearing?
Ms. Alger?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Ms. Bryant?
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Bryant and a second by Mr. Painter to approve the consent agenda?
Ms. Alger?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Ms. Bryant?
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan?
Yes.
Yes. Now, if Miss Paula Purdom and Donna Nauman can join me up front too. Here are our volunteers of the month. You guys can stand up.
Shenandoah Elementary is excited to recognize the Making a Difference Backpack Program Ministry as a Volunteer of the Month. Representing the program tonight is Mrs. Paula Purdom and Ms. Donna Norman. Back in May of 2012, a group of 30 caring individuals from local churches came together with one goal in mind: to make sure students at Shenandoah Elementary had enough food to make it through the weekend. From that meeting, a Making Difference backpack ministry was formed, and by September, the very first backpacks were sent home with students in need. Now, 13 years later, this program is still going strong, providing a lifeline to students facing food insecurity. There have been challenges along the way, like adjusting during the COVID-19 shutdown and moving storage locations 4 times, but the mission has never wavered. This program runs entirely on donations from generous businesses, churches, and community members. Right now, it costs $500 a week to purchase food, and with grocery prices rising, that number continues to grow. Over the years, an average of 70 to 95 students have received food bags each week, with 73 currently benefiting from the program. Local churches and organizations take turns each month packing and distributing the bags, keeping everything running smoothly. Behind the scenes, a dedicated team of officers and church representatives plan, shop, and organize, ensuring students get the support they need. Around 50 volunteers give their time of packing, delivering, fundraising, and doing whatever it takes to make sure no child goes hungry. Their efforts really, truly make a difference. Today, we want to recognize this incredible program and the people who keep it going. Representing Making a Difference Backpack Ministry here today are Paula Purdom, Treasurer, and School Liaison, and Donna Nauman, Secretary and Food Shopper, who, along with so many others, are making a real impact in our community. Ms. Purdom, Ms. Nauman, and everyone affiliated with the Making a Difference Backpack Program, thank you for your tireless work in support of students. And on behalf of Page County Public Schools and Shenandoah Elementary School, congratulations on being named the Volunteer of the Month. Our church takes a month or two during the year to help get everything back. The way all this is organized and the food and everything that is bought. And then we've had even some students from Sunday school programs come in and help. It's just amazing, and how fortunate are we to have people like yourselves. So thank you.
Thank you all. And you all are welcome to stay and enjoy the rest of the meeting. Or you're also welcome to enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you. Instructional highlight, Shenandoah Elementary School, Ms. Foltz and Ms. Weichel.
Good evening, board. It's good to stand before you guys. I tell you, I feel a little bit intimidated after coming up after those. Oh, man, I tell you, those are the ones, we're in the building, but they're the ones that really kind of keep things going behind the scenes. But it is an honor really to be before y'all this evening and just to get to give you guys some highlights from Shenandoah Elementary this year. I'm really anxious and eager to show you some of the improvements that we've made just since I stood before you guys last year here. So again, we are here today just to share some things with you. So Shenandoah Elementary School I need to slow down, I'm sorry. Shenandoah Elementary School continues to be federally and state accredited. In addition to that, our school also showed tremendous growth in our students' standardized scores over last school year. So I'm going to start just by touching a little bit on our reading performance. So on the slide, you will notice the last 3 school years, starting with 21-22, the most recent on the right. I will also remind you that the light blue to the left is our school score, the middle is our division, and then the far right, the orange, is our state. So in reading, you can kind of see where we have been improving slowly. The one thing that I would like to point out with our reading scores, though, the 73, which is right lines directly with our state average, that was just our raw pass. But on top of that, we also get a student growth indicator. So the state sets forth different criteria. And if the students meet that criteria, we can get a pass, even if they don't get that minimum 400. And it's really nice, especially for those students that kind of struggle or things come a little bit more challenging to them. They still get credit for learning and closing that gap, so to speak. So although we had 73% raw pass, we actually ended up with an 85% pass rate for our reading if you included growth, which to me was just absolutely phenomenal. I am so excited about that. The only kind of downside to that is in reading. One of our focuses this year is focusing solely on the the success of our students with disabilities, because although our general ed population, our entire population was 85%, our students with disabilities were only at 67% pass. So that's one of those things we're really, really trying to focus on this year. We've got a lot of good plans in place to provide intervention and extra support services. Of course, we're following the Virginia Literacy Act, so we've got a lot of things in place with that. So I'm anxious to see the improvements that we make in that area as well. And then similarly in math, again, you can kind of see over the past 3 years, Shannon Elementary continues to scale upwards. I guess year before last now, 22, 23, we are at 73% pass. Last year, we were at 74% raw score. Again, in math, though, we do get a growth pass as well. So in math, we were at 82% growth. 82% path, including growth, which was, again, absolutely amazing. The state threshold is about 73%, so we well exceeded that. Again, we are still focusing on our students with disabilities in this category, because although our entire student population was at 82% pass, our students with disabilities were only at 63. Still not bad at all. It's really not, but we definitely have room for improvement. So we're doing good, but we're just continuing to take it to that next level and that next level. And then on the next slide, here's our Virginia Studies performance. I'm going to tell you, this one kind of makes me a little bit sad when I look at, just because when I look at these scores, and you can just see, I mean, we've been well above state, we've been well above division. That was a very experienced long-term teacher that has now retired. So I'm excited for her, but she is dearly missed. I will say we have a wonderful teacher that has taken that over. So she's been given a lot of support this year as well. So we've been kind of monitoring that. It's not really an area of focus, but we've been kind of keeping an eye on that as well. So we hope just to continue to hold steady, again, way above state averages and the minimum threshold. Then in science, fifth grade science, I don't know if you guys remember when I was here last year, we talked a whole lot about our science because this was a big area of focus. So we had all kinds of family engagement events. We had stream nights. We had career days. We had lots of exploratory things that we were doing, a lot of observations. And I am very happy to report tonight that as I stand before you, if you notice in 22 and 23, we had a 45% pass rate. Last year, we were at 84%, and that is just absolutely phenomenal. And I could not be more proud of the teachers and the work that they've done and the work that the students have done to get that. So I'm like, yes, way to go. That made me so happy. I knew it was going to be good, but I didn't realize it was going to be quite that good. So that was very exciting. So again, we're focusing on, last year, we focused a lot on science. We also focused a lot on our chronic absenteeism. And we are continue to focus on that. But I'm going to turn this part over to Ms. Weichel because she's really kind of taken the lead on this for me. So I'm going to let her speak on this just a little bit.
As we know that the state kind of took this as a ring for us to have to work for since the COVID years, and we needed to get a handle on it in our schools. And so we reduced our attendance absentee from 25% to around 17%. And this was an area of focus from last year. And some of the things that we have done this year, I think that has kind of added some excitement to our thing is every week I look at the weekly recognition. And I put it on there. Anybody knows me, I try to do a lot of energy. That's just kind of my personality. Even last week, my sister was kind of like, would you stop? I would do it at home. And she was like, stop, you're getting on my nerves with your whole yelling about the kids being at school. But I get excited because they're there. Right now, we struggled in February with our attendance at 80-some% because they were all sick. We're now at 94%. And we've been rocking it for this month, pretty in the 90s. So we're getting there. But we do also monthly attendance, and we recognize them, we bring them down, and we give them gifts and little things, and we kind of like really make it a hoopla to them. And they even asked last month, Jody wasn't there, and I got pulled a lot at different times, and they're like, when are you coming? When are you going to call us down? Like they call you out on it if you don't do it. And then I've been working with Meg Campbell, and we've been working on early interventions and trying to make contact with parents and making, when teachers say, we've been noticing our students are not here, what can we do to help them get here? What can you do to help us? And so that's kind of things. Sorry, my habit of moving. Sorry. Good. Positive relationships. And that's one of the things that I think that Shenandoah has a lot of great things that happen in the building. I've just been very impressed by just the amount of positivity that's gone on. One of the things that Jody and I worked on this summer was implementing a mentor program with our encore staff. Because we implemented a 5-day rotation or encore schedule, one of the things to fill that rotation schedule was to implement a mentor program with this encore staff. And the ones that are in need or just need that extra push or need a help in attendance, they come and they work with those students weekly on giving them a positive relationship that they don't have outside of the building. Also, I think this is a shine of us as we look at, we have a homegrown tomato, as I always like to call it, and that's what I say because I'm so proud of him. Dakota Dingus brought Jody and I in February an idea because I really like to do something that would make fun of the attendance, and he brought March Madness attendance books. And so he's like, what can we do? So he and I sat down and I've tried to do it. So we're going to bring the staff in, and PK through 2 is going to be doing the Hungry Hippo game. So I don't know if I'm going to do that because I don't know, you might be calling 911 if I do it, but I am going to play basketball. Never played basketball very much in my life, but I am playing basketball because that 5th graders asked me to do it. But about 3 through 5 is doing basketball. So that's kind of the incentive that to get our March attendance up because we were struggling so much in February. You noticed that our numbers on the weekly daily attendance was so down because let's see what we can do to help our school. And so he brought that to us. And so a first year teacher brought us some ideas, to bring us along.
Thank you, Ms. Michael. And so I think one of the important things, and I kind of feel like this is my soapbox part of it. We reviewed grades, we reviewed standards, we talk about the absenteeism, and that is all very important, but that is just a piece of it. And so a huge piece of it is just where our students fit in the community and where our students fit in with parents. And so a really big thing for me is just the family engagement piece of it. We really try to be proactive with scheduling a lot of family engagement events. We've got a couple of slides of pictures. This is what I call the fun stuff. We've done all the boring stuff. Here's the fun stuff. Back in the fall, we do a literacy night. We usually tie this in with our book fair. And so you can see the picture in the middle, the picture here, there's actually a dog laying, that was a therapy dog that came, the picture in the middle, that's some of our ITRTs that came and did like a STEM activity with our students. So that was part of our literacy night. Our PTO is also awesome, and they help us do some family engagement things. They did the trunk or treat. I didn't have any pictures. I was too busy giving out candy, and there were lines and lines. And anyway, that just didn't happen. Sorry. They also do pancakes and pajamas, which was new this year at Christmas time. That was a lot of fun. We do a Veterans Day program, which is kind of a staple for me. That is a very big thing for our community. We have our Thanksgiving family lunch. You can see a picture at the top of our family enjoying that. Our chorus, we mentioned Scarlett's part of this. They have gone out. They go out to the Christmas tree lighting ceremony and they perform there. Mr. Hopkins has helped us arrange some programs. The Candace Fleming visit, she came to our school and visited, talked a lot about kindness and bullying. We had Miss Virginia come to visit us. So she's pictured here with one of our students, and she was really, really amazing this year. She really took a lot of time to build some really good connections with those students. We had our stream night at the end of January, I think it was. The snows kind of threw me off with all my dates because everything. But the picture at the bottom there, it's a football. We had a football theme, and you can see the far right. And so all of our games were stream related: science, technology, reading, engineering, arts, and math. But it was the week of Super Bowl, so in February, I'm sorry. And so everything was Super Bowl themed. The picture at the bottom is actually a lot of high school students that actually came to assist with our stream night and to help make that a success, because we also had a talent show. But if you go to the next slide, Ms. Michael, there's actually some more pictures at the top. You'll also see the girls and boys basketball teams. They came to the school. There's a picture in the bottom right corner, some of them coming to read. I have found, me personally, that these high school students are such good role models, and they can really, really encourage our students. So I try to get them involved as much as we can. But I kind of stole Ms. Michael's slide here. But in the middle is our mission statement. And I don't know if you remember, I did bring this to you last year. And this is kind of what we live, breathe, think, dream. At Shenandoah Elementary, we are a community of positivity, unity, and determination. And so I feel like a lot of these pictures on this slide portray that. We've got a lot of pictures of our Veterans Day assembly, which again, I feel like is so important. Up at the top corner, you can see a lot of our younger students. Unfortunately, they haven't really lived in the time that they are able to make the connections, I think, truly between what sacrifices these heroes have made. And so this is a way that those students can really put that into reality, into perspective. Our concerts, this bottom one is the high schoolers came and performed a concert for us. So there's lots of things there. If we continue on to the next screen, you will see more things that we have going on. I said this is just pictures of everyone. They're just having hands-on fun. They're interacting. They're exploring. They're engaging. They're simply loving to learn. And I could tell you a little story about each one of those, but I don't really want to waste your time. But I will gladly take any questions that you guys have. Here's another picture of just some more fun that we've been having. I'm going to tell you, these two slides were probably the most difficult for me to do because we are taking well over 100 days of learning and fun and trying to put it into just a couple of pictures. And it's really, really hard, but I am just so super proud of what's going on. So, of course, we have pictures of the students, so I can't leave out our wonderful staff.
And if you want kids to love school, you have to want your staff to love the school. And so by having fun activities that the students participate in, you also want your staff to participate in. One of the things that we did this year was a ninja or a underground spirit week. And man, was that we were the first group to do it in Page County, and the kids could not figure out what we were doing. It was very exciting. That's what the over here on the very left side, where the ladies are dressed in black. They all had to dress in black the first day, and they were ninjas.
And if I can interrupt you for a
Yeah.
second, I think that day Mr. Painter and Mr. Overfelt came for a visit. And we're like, wait. Before y'all go through the building, let us explain what's going on here, okay? And people were sneaking around stealing ninjas off doors. But it's a great day. It's a great day.
Mr. Overfield stole like 2 or 3.
He did, didn't he?
And Mr. Benson had the authority on all of them because he put it as tall as he could make. So
But yeah, we truly believe if the staff are having fun, that's going to trickle down to the kids. So I feel like my job is to make sure we're taking care of the staff, and my staff are going to no doubt take care of the students. And at the end of the day, it takes a kid to know a kid. So that's kind of who we are, and that's what we feel and what we believe. But that's what I have for you guys tonight, but I'll take any questions that you might have.
Good job.
Could you go back to the charts?
Sure.
I want to go see that 40, whatever, through
Oh, in science?
the science, yeah. Yeah, so Dr. Huber, you must really be good. Good addition here. I mean, that's an amazing stat right there.
It's impressive, I tell you.
It very much is.
And I wish I could take credit for it,
Yeah,
but I can talk
Yeah, what
and I
do
can
you
remind and I can prod, but it's my teachers.
be a teacher.
100%.
Yeah.
And great leadership as well. I think one of the other positives that has come of that you don't see on the screen is when you have success like that, you can share that across the division, maybe with other schools who are struggling. And I'm pretty confident that's occurred. And
Absolutely.
those principals have been working together, leveraging the strength of those staff members that made that happen and sharing that information with each other, not just at Shenandoah, but other schools that need that same result. So yeah, they should be very proud of themselves.
And to tag on that, we have had some fellow teachers come and observe some of my staff. And I will tell you, I actually have an arrangement tomorrow with another school in the division where one of my staff is going to go observe another classroom. So I do feel like that's coming. I know that's something our division's worked really hard for a long time. And I feel like even the administrators of the building have a really good relationship. And so we are actually collaborating more, and I'm really excited about that.
I love the collaboration. I love the excitement and energy. And you're right. When you take care of your staff, I mean, in the whole building, it trickles down to things like this. I really love the idea of using the Encore teachers as mentors. I think that's brilliant. That's a really utilizing the resources you have. And with the high school students too. I think that's such a good relationship. And you're right, the role model. So yeah.
Thank you.
Good creativity, and good thinking, sharing ideas and all that. And the excitement, you can hear it. So appreciate it comes through. So that's a good thing. And they hear it too. So keep it up.
Thank you.
And when you speak fast, people pay more attention.
I think I get up and, I've got that one track mind and bam, bam, bam. I'm following right along. You gotta talk quiet, fast before you lose them, right?
Get it all in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And you guys are welcome anytime you'd like. Come pay us a visit.
And Mrs. White, she's been a good addition, right?
Oh, she is. I love Miss Whitcomb. Yeah, we actually had a really good talk today about how we've kind of gotten the groove of things and how much we complement each other, and we are really kind of on the right track, and we communicate a lot, and I think we're both on the same page about pretty much everything we do, and that is such a big relief. And to be able to know that I'm out of the building and I don't have to worry about that if I come to meetings or something, it's not going to miss a beat.
Yeah, so just springboarding off of that, Mr. Overfelt brought his supervisor in, and I met with Miss Kiger, and her, Ryan, myself would like to tour the school starting in Shenandoah. So we have to work that out, and I don't know if it's possible we get a date that you could go along with us too, but they're very much interested. I think that's what we need when we're talking about these budgets and everything else.
Absolutely.
Thank you all.
Okay, thank you.
Great job.
Dr. Huber, I believe you are up next with an instructional update.
Absolutely. Good evening, members of the board, members of the audience, and those watching from home or afar. It's my pleasure this evening to present our instructional update for this month. And we've got a lot of great information to share. I'll say before our leaders from Shenandoah depart, it's been a pleasure getting to know them this school year, working alongside of them, and couldn't be more proud of the work that they've done and their staff have done collectively. And I think it shows in what they presented this evening. So I'd be remiss if I didn't call that out before we begin. So for our instructional update, we have two main areas of focus, which are really exciting. One is an area that we don't often talk a lot about. When we look at charts and graphs and student performance, we often do what? We look at grades 3 through 12. Those are our tested grades where we have those numbers. Tonight, we are excited as an instructional team and as a division to talk about our littlest learners and the foundation that they are receiving in Page County Public Schools. So to lead off, we'll talk first about our pre-K and kindergarten programs and share some data with you all about how those our youngest learners are performing and what we can expect moving forward. And then we'll transition and expand a little bit upon those grants that I've talked to you about in prior months and give you an update on where we're at instructionally. So also exciting is getting to work within our new strategic plan, Positive Pathways 2029. And it's really important before we jump into details to always remember our why. And it's there on the screen for everyone to know and to remember. And I think it's really important to revisit that before we talk about anything, because this is our agreed upon vision as a school division and where we believe excellence lies. And I want to read it, and I will this time and every time that you all give me the opportunity to present. The vision of Page County Public Schools is to support and prepare all students to become healthy, well-rounded individuals and engaged citizens. That's our North Star, and that's what guides the work that we do, whether it's what we just had shared with us from our school level or at the division. That's our framework and our North Star. When we look at that strategic plan that you as a board just recently approved, our first topic falls under this goal of student achievement, which is part of our plan, our Positive Pathways 2029 plan. Goal 1, Essential Action 1.1.2, which focuses on increasing the percentage of students who meet grade level benchmarks on the VALS assessment. And we're also going to talk about BKRP as well. That's embedded as part of our strategic plan. It's important to not only work towards that goal, but also to be transparent in our communication to you as a board and the public on, are we making progress? And that's one of our goals this evening in the instructional update. Before we get into the data and the charts and the graphs, I really started looking at this and I had to think briefly, this is about year 20 for me in public education. And I started to look at all of the acronyms that I was going to present. So in front of you, you have a glossary that I asked, and it's graciously printed and provided in the packet for you, so you have it to reference. Because even if I presented it as a slide and moved on, I think I would forget as well. So feel free to reference that as I spout out letters and different terms. But those are what some of the topics you're going to see us talk about when it comes to how we measure the progress of our pre-K and kindergarten students in our division and across the state of Virginia. And it's important that as we talk about them, that you have a framework in our community. We don't do a great job in education sometimes speaking the correct language to our stakeholders. And this is just an effort to put that in front of you. Hopefully that helps. So we'll start looking at just overall kindergarten benchmarks. And just to clarify what this shows you, in most slides on the left-hand stacked column, you're going to see what the state of Virginia numbers show. And these are our current kindergartners as compared to the state. The N, as you're aware, just from a statistical perspective, is how many students were tested on that particular assessment or benchmark that we're showing you. So you can see for the state of Virginia in this example, I won't do this on every slide. This will just be the example. 79,000 plus across the state, and for us, 179 students were tested. This particular benchmark, there's two categories of really how this is broken down. You meet the benchmark by scoring at or above in all four of those domains. So not 3, not 2, all 4, which is impressive. Below is that you missed the mark in 1 or more. Okay? And those benchmarks are set in a fluid manner as we look at the development of students at those early grades. So if you look at Page County Public Schools against the state average in the meeting benchmark column, our students in the fall scored at 63% meeting the benchmark, whereas the rest of this state was at 51%. Please stop me if any of this is, if you have questions. Then we'll look at vowels. So if you recall, vowels replaced PALs. And again, the definition of vowels is on that quote unquote glossary in front of you. And so if you look at our vowels results, which focuses on those literacy fundamentals that you see, alphabet knowledge, phonological awareness, decoding, encoding, comprehension, nonsense sentences, vocab, and rapid automatized naming. Meeting benchmark, again, across the state, Page County Public Schools is at 79%, meeting the benchmark in the fall versus 64% across the state. Positive patterns. You look at our EMAS results. So that's looking at mathematics, early mathematical thinking. It's really based around cognitive science for that assessment and developmental and educational research. You'll see, again, Page County Public Schools at 85% of our students meeting the benchmark versus 78% across the state. Now, moving forward, the CBRS results, and we really look at two areas in this piece of the assessment. It's a lot for a 5-year-old, by the way, to complete all of this. Mm-hmm. We're looking at two areas, self-regulation and social skills. So this is looking at how do students interact with their peers? How do they interact with adults? How do they interact with the material that they're working through? And you can see it's a pretty level playing field when you compare our division with the state, slightly under for the self-regulation, and then the social skills is directly spot on average with the state. This is a little bit more of a qualitative assessment, if you want to think about it that way, rely on a lot more teacher input in terms of those two categories, which in those areas that is important to have that human element to give feedback of where kids are at. Again, knowing that those two areas of self-regulation and social skills are incredibly important as a foundation for our youngest learners as they move through and continue on in our school system. So that just gives you an overview of how our kindergartners tested in those assessments. And again, it's an exciting piece of information to share because we don't always talk about it. We're always focused on SOLs and all of those other things. But I think it's really important to celebrate the work of those early learners and those teachers that work in those grade levels, because they really do provide the foundation for what happens next. And we can't understate the importance of that education. I can't understate the contributions made from our staff that teach in those pre-K, K levels, our division staff that keep me straight on all the ins and outs of pre-K. And remember, I'm a high school math teacher, so I thank all the team behind me and our principals and our teachers for their work, because it is truly impactful as our students move forward. And if we don't get that right at those early ages, we're fighting a battle from that point forward. So I don't know about you all, but every pre-K or kindergartner that I see, all I see is them as a 12th grader crossing the stage of graduation. And that every decision we make along the way is either a positive or negative impact on that journey. And to start them off right is a great step. So we want to talk about the impact of pre-K and that early intervention, early learning, and what that looks like as compared to students who do not get those experiences. As you know, in our school division, we spend and contribute a lot of staff time and funding and dedication and effort towards making sure our kids are ready when they come to school. And so if you take a look at these numbers, this is pretty powerful. These charts are set up differently than the others. They are not comparing state averages. What they're showing you is students that participate in formal preschool versus those who do not. So maybe they're staying at home or someone's watching them. Maybe they're at an in-home daycare, something that doesn't qualify as a formal pre-K experience. The numbers are pretty staggering. If you look at, let's say, the first category, again, we're trying to compare apples to apples for you. So if you remember back, overall kindergarten benchmark assessments, when we look at our kindergartners that were involved in a formal preschool experience, 71% of them are meeting the benchmark on that assessment. And then you compare that to students that don't have that pre-K experience formally, they're performing at 53. You bump over and look at vowels, you're looking at the same trend, right? You have a 12% delta between those two numbers there in terms of what pre-K and what preschool and helping those students as early as we can get to them really makes a difference foundationally. And again, I want to applaud our staff and our leadership that support those programs because it makes a huge difference. Again, the same assessments I've already discussed, and you can reference your sheet as well. Doesn't lie. So you have a delta there for mathematics, again, at 8%. And then you're looking, at the next 9% difference on that self-regulation. Having that experience where you have structure and you learn school early on is critical to helping students as they move forward. So that's the part one of the instructional update. Hopefully you found that to be helpful. I'm going to pause because I'm going to jump into a totally different topic here. Just wanted to take questions on what you just heard and saw there in those graphs.
Yeah, I guess one of the questions I have about kindergarten class size, student to teacher ratio. I know Mrs. Webb feels very strongly about that.
Mm-hmm.
And I know she's actually tried to purposely get that number 12, 13 to 1. Is that kind of ratio at Shenandoah and all the other areas as well? Okay.
It is not. It can fluctuate very much depending upon, registrations. Kindergarten is really tough in terms of trying to predict who's coming. And certainly our building level leaders and central office would tell you sometimes that student shows up day one and you didn't know they were coming. And so you can make the best laid plans, right? And It does so happen this year, Stanley does have lower numbers in the kindergarten levels, but then they may have elevated their numbers in upper grade levels.
She's banking on that. She's banking that if I do it in kindergarten, it's going to get them in a better place for first grade.
Yep.
So I guess that's a good experiment. You see whether that's something that we need to look at for all the schools.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's part of our staffing conversations. I can tell you weekly, at least, we're looking at numbers and trying to project next year, at all schools. When we're looking at all 4 elementaries, what is that number going to look like, right? And so who needs to move from 5th to 4th, Probably don't want to go 5th to kindergarten, but how do we, leverage the staff that we have to make those numbers work, and then, collaborate with the principals on, what their preferences are at the same time.
I know it's very difficult. So every school's different, different demographics, the whole thing. But I think if we're doing that experiment in Stanley, it'd be good to really fine tune how well that worked. If it's worth in the other schools. I don't know what your average is for kindergarten. I don't know what the spot, but
I'd say this year the average would be
18. That's another third student. So.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It is.
Especially coming out of COVID and maturity.
What are the eligibilities for pre-K?
So there is a VPI criteria, and Mr. Hopkins, jump in if I don't say this correctly. He's my resident expert. But to give you the high overview look, so we have the criteria set by the state in terms of VPI participation. It's very clear what criteria people need to meet, and that looks at income level, a couple of different factors, and there's local criteria as well that can be used. And we have a certain number of slots that are allotted to us as a division each year. We've just had this conversation 2 or 3 times the past week, looking at the slots we have for the upcoming year, requesting more, and kind of balancing that out. But we use those 2 main categories of the VPI and the local criteria to screen students if they qualify. We can't take everybody, unfortunately. Thank you for that question. Keep moving? All right. So switch gears. You don't need a glossary for this part. So pressure is off. Just wanted to give you, this is an exciting update, and we touched on it a little bit a few meetings ago and talked about that large number of grants that we have worked on above and beyond what's typical that we would rely on. And we've continued to work on that to firm those up and get more concrete approval. There's a big difference, especially in the finance world, of the Virginia Department of Ed saying, yeah, you got it, you're good, versus that money hitting the account, right? And so we're at that good stage now, and I just wanted to share that with you and what that looks like. So we're really going to focus, when we look at it from a strategic plan lens, again, this is another goal from our recently approved plan, Positive Pathways 2029, and the essential action under the same goal of student achievement is looking at increasing the percentage of students scoring proficient or demonstrating growth on SOL assessments to achieve full accreditation at all schools. So as you're aware, we have 1 school in the division who did not receive full accreditation and is working very hard and very diligently to address that. But in addition to accreditation, we also have federal requirements, and that's what these grants address. So I wanted to pull this out as aligned with our strategic plan because it's accreditation, but it's also the federal accountability model that these grants address. If that makes sense. So these are pretty staggering numbers, which are really, really exciting and uplifting. And I'm going to give you some specifics that I didn't last time we talked about this. The first school that will receive one of these grants, if you hear us use the word SIG, it's a SIG grant, school improvement grant is what we mean by that. LES was identified as what we call a TSI, TSI school, which is targeted school improvement. Oh gosh. Okay. I'll have a glossary next time. Sorry. I'm going off the cuff a little bit. I need to stop.
I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am. These schools are identified annually, needs support with specific subgroups. For LES, the subgroups that we are looking at are students with disabilities, are economically disadvantaged, and are white students. And really what you're looking at there is achievement of those subgroups as it compares to other schools across the state, both Title I and non, okay, in the same grade bands. So the grant award that we got the official notice that I called Dr. Fox, I think, very early in the morning as I got the email. Very excited about the school getting this funding. Is $50,000 for Luray Elementary. And what that's going to be used for is what's even more exciting for us is it's going to come right back to our teachers at that school. And what do I mean by that? We are going to give opportunities. We won't mandate, but we're going to give opportunities for outside of contract hours time. So it's not carrying over on top of their contract or piling on, to really take a deep dive into their comprehensive school improvement plan that you all know we've been working through all year, analyzing where we're at as it relates to those subgroups and planning for what's next and what do we do as we enter the fall, so that while we enjoy that grant award and we're excited it's coming back to our teachers, which is well deserved for the extra time they spend, hopefully we're not a designated school improvement grant school moving forward, if that makes sense. We appreciate the support. We're going to use it. We're going to have our staff deeply involved with that process, but we're hoping that we come out of that status for the rest. The other school that receives a grant, they're under a different categorization, is Page County Middle School. They have a grant award of $75,000. They're considered an additional targeted support and school improvement school. The reason is that they've been identified several years in a row, and then their specific subgroup of students with disabilities is not performing where it needs to. So again, we've been working with Page Middle all year, and we'll continue to. And again, that $75,000 comes right back to our people with work outside of contract hours and over the summer to continue to refine our plans. But more importantly, when we talk about, climbing this ladder and getting over these obstacles, the way you do it is you build collective teamwork around a common goal. And to do that, we have to spend time together really digging in on the tough things and coming up with very targeted plans. We're very guilty in education sometimes of we grab the next fanciest, shiniest thing and we throw away everything we ever did before. And, some guy, assistant superintendent, comes in and says he's got the best idea ever, and that's what we do. That doesn't work. And so we really want to have a collective teamwork approach to this. And so that's how we want to use the funds. We want to bring people together that are willing to dig in and do the work. We know it's summer. We know it's after school, but we're going to compensate you for that and your time. And that will take hold, and we'll continue to build off that moving forward. But all in all, hopefully as a division and as a board and community, we're excited about that money coming in to our school division and staying here with our people. So those are the two schools identified federally, which may be weird because Page Middle is not from a state standpoint, but they are federally, which is a totally different set of measures. Wanted to provide you that update as a board and as a community so that you know that's coming.
Go back to the next September 30th. You got summer in between. How are you going to do that? How does that work?
It's going to be a challenge.
We have the money right now. Is it in the account?
It hasn't hit the account. We're waiting on the.
It's the VDOE thing.
Yeah.
And we do this every year, and we tell them every year, you've got to do this much sooner. We needed this money back in August,
Yeah, absolutely.
July of last year. So
So
it's a frustration.
what will happen is we'll monitor it closely because you're right. It's a tough task to spend that much money and both of them are September.
I mean, you do summer school.
That's completely different.
Oh, really?
So that's a whole nother. Yeah.
I don't know how you're gonna do it.
What we'll do is we'll monitor it just as we
I'm
would
sure
any
you can spend the
other.
money some.
It will. Yeah, we will. Any other federal grant that we have, and when we realize, where we're at and what we have in terms of commitment, I'm meeting with both admin teams right after spring break, actually the same day, to look at that plan at a greater depth and detail. Well, you can amend your application. So let's say we want to move it from, what we're going to do outside of contract hours. And maybe to your point, there's no way we can get to that number. Okay, well then are there materials that align with this shared vision and goals that we've come up with collectively as a staff? Let's amend our application and take care of that. What I don't want to do is say that we can just go buy things and that's going to fix kids. Because I don't believe in that. And so we're going to start with our people, making sure that we're on the same page, that we have a very focused approach to what it is that we're trying to do. And then we'll backfill that with the supports they need to get there, if that makes sense. It's going to be, it's work. It's a lot of work. I'm not going to
Is this
deny
gonna be
that.
part of your updates as you go forward? This
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we have others as well. This is just the big ones that we
Yeah.
wanted to hit tonight.
But I like to know,
Yes,
it'd
sir.
be good to kind of go over what the plans are.
Yep.
Get that money spent.
Yep.
Perfect.
So
Thank you.
I'm excited about it. It's opportunity. We just have to seize it.
Absolutely.
So, I did make an expenditure that you'll see along the rivers and bridges. I'm kidding, by the way. As you all know, sorry.
He's kidding.
Well,
He's kidding.
as you drive,
5,000, right?
yeah, as you drive through the division, no. This is important though to really realize. We have tomorrow and then spring break, and if people that know me well know I don't do countdowns to like, oh, it's almost summer. That number is like, we got work to do, everybody. So we continually remind our staff and our leadership that when we get back, we have 19 school days before testing begins. So the foot does not come off the gas. So I just wanted to point that out. I started with humor, but I'll end with a level of seriousness that, we're going to continue to work. We're going to continue to look at data. Our principals are politely reaching out every day, asking me for their benchmark data and where they're at, and they're on it. And we're on it as a division team, and I'm excited to see how our students perform when we get to that point. And I'm confident in everybody involved that they'll do a great job. So certainly we've taken questions and comments along the way, but I do want to provide that opportunity. I thought this quote was really powerful as we look at the topic this evening, just about how formative those early years are and how much the experiences our kids have when they are 3, 4, and 5 in our schools, and how that shapes their brains into a lot of things. What does school mean? Why am I here? What can I do? What opportunities are available for me? And we take that seriously. And hopefully as a board and as a community, you're confident, based upon some of the data we shared and other things that you've witnessed, that we take that piece really seriously. That what we're doing in the early years is incredibly important. So thank you for the opportunity to talk about some of these things this evening. I'm happy to answer questions.
That's great information to have. And just to see the improvement in those subject areas is amazing. So that's great.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Dr. Fox, Superintendent's update.
Yeah, thank you. I have to follow behind the amazing Scarlett, the backpack ministry, their amazing presentation. This. I'm just going to talk fast and maybe that'll help. So, but thank you to Dr. Huber, to our directors, and our instructional team, to all of our administrators, our teachers, our staff for making these things happen. Those grants don't just come. You don't just say, I want it, and it happens. It's a lot of work, especially these ones, because they're so specific. And it is challenging sometimes because of the criteria they put in there of how you can spend the money. So Dr. Huber and your team and your administrators, you all in the room, thank you all very much for all of that. I'm going to move quickly this evening for you. Just a quick update where we are with budget. The governor has amended and published some of his things with the budget. The one that we're most disappointed in is he has changed that support cap. He decreased it a little bit so that it removes funding. We have sent today, you all have a copy in your inbox. You may or may not have seen it yet. Late this afternoon, I did send to Senator Obenchain and Delegate Gilbert a request that they maintain the funding level that was set out of those committees. We've also sent that to the Board of Supervisors, and I've asked them to contact their administrators because this helps them. The more we get from the state, the less the locality has to put in. So we really, really hope that that support cap comes back to where the general committees from the assembly had put it. Really will benefit the division. You all have approved our proposed budget, so we're just waiting. We know now that we have to make amendments. We're just waiting. We again play that waiting game. General Assembly comes back in next week, so we're hoping that there'll be some resolution to some things in the next 2 weeks. We did present this past Monday to the Board of Supervisors in their work session, so thank you to you all that came in support of that, to our team that was there. I think that went well. They asked a lot of questions. We've begun providing them today with the information that they asked. We have 1 or 2 more items to prepare for them, but they'll have that information as they've asked for it. And then our Joint Facilities Committee, they met yesterday. I'll talk more about that in just a second. I've asked Dr. Johnson just to chime in on that. And then the General Assembly again will reconvene on April 2nd. So the Joint Facilities Committee, we're excited that they met yesterday. List there of the staff that were there. Unfortunately, some other folks have other competing interests and couldn't be there, but we'll keep you posted and updated on what was discussed. But I've asked Dr. Johnson just to give a quick brief update of what that committee did, because it is an important one for us.
Sure, yes. We met yesterday. It was very fruitful. Ms. Alger, myself, Mr. Dykes, the maintenance team, Mr. Williams and Mr. Bell, along with Mrs. Moeller and Mrs. Kyle, the newest Board of Supervisor. We led off, we spent about 15 minutes just getting Mrs. Kyle up to speed, because remember, she wasn't able to attend the joint meeting that we had with the Board of Supervisors. So it actually, I told Dr. Fox, it actually was a bit helpful that we didn't have a larger group, because we were able to spend some basically one-on-one time with she and Mrs. Moeller, getting her up to speed on the history of the CIP and Bureau Veritas and where we've been and how we got to our current budgetary requests for next year and the long-range CIP. We led off with the word unity, and we talked about how significant the CIP process is for this county, and challenged the attendees that as we hold these meetings, it's very important that the representatives go back to their respective boards and articulate what's talked about and what's agreed upon. We were able to take a deeper dive into procurement process and what it looks like on the school system side when we need to put out RFPs and we need to try and get vendors here. We talked about geographically the disadvantages we're at when we need contractors and large industry folks to support us, and maybe we get 2 or 3 companies that will bid on us. We talked about the amount of funding that is in that CIP and how the traditional school budget closes on June 30th, and how we can't operate that way if we're going to do major repairs, renovations. We have to have the confidence of the supervisors that if a project goes beyond June 30th, the funds are still there. If an order is backlogged 6 months, talked about some of the problems in getting supplies, big supplies. So I thought it was very informed. The decision-making piece of it was really helpful. And we really hit home just the need to take this seriously and the need for there to be open dialogue about trust in this process, about available funds in this process. And I felt like it was very well received with those that were in attendance. And I hope they'll go back in their discussions. We talked specifically, when you all are meeting with your board, we hope that you'll relay this information. Don't let it be forgotten. The sentiment from Mrs. Moeller particularly in her recent conversations with the Board of Supervisors, and we're going to talk about this later in tonight's agenda, but they're very, very interested in these two studies that are to be done. They're very interested in that. We were able to go back to the CIP and talk about the things that we left off for next year until we have study results. And we don't want to spend money in any way that may not be prudent. And so that's where it ended, just talking about the studies and how exciting that is to get some guidance with groups that professionally, that's what they do and that's what they specialize in. So I thought it was fruitful.
Want to add anything?
Likewise.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson.
Yes.
We had a great community forum on Tuesday afternoon. Unfortunately, our attendance at these has dwindled a bit, but we hope to revive that next school year. We have one more this school year, but we had the Collins Center, which is a child advocacy center, come and talk about the work that they do in the community. We are excited to have a center here in Luray. It's huge that we have that for our students and our families. Choices, Council on Domestic Violence also spoke. It was nice that they were paired together. Actually, it just happened that way, but their two topics really do parallel each other. So we're grateful to those staff members from those organizations for coming. And then we had a great treat where we had Jacob Jones from Luray High and Jackson Staples from Page High talk to us about YPACA and the work that they're doing. They were cute and shared all the different activities that YPACA, it's amazing the number of events and activities that these kids are doing. And we're just excited that those students were willing and able to come and share and did a great job for that. So again, Ms. Aldridge, we'll thank them again for a great job. We were actually talking with a student today about the opportunities that YPACA, it's a middle school student, but we wanted that student to know that there's opportunities for some of the things that they want to participate in. And just thank you to everybody. A lot of you guys were able to come. Some staff were there. We appreciate that. The last forum of this school year will be on Tuesday, April 29th at 4:00 at Luray High. So if anybody knows someone that wants to present or to share information, we're certainly open to that as we craft that agenda. But we look forward to seeing everybody on the 20th. And then I haven't given you a care solace. If you recall, this is our connection to mental health and substance abuse resources. I haven't given you an update on that in a couple of months, so I thought I would let you know because I'm excited about these numbers. I think the one that gives me the most happiness and that this is working is the warm handoffs. That means there's 85 times that families have been connected with care solace for that. And then from that, 43 appointments have happened. So I think it's a good tool. We're going to continue to use it. We're still hearing positive things from our school counselors in administrators in terms of the use of it. And if you see there, it's 145, almost 146 hours of time for them that's been saved. So just a great resource. We're going to continue to remind people that they can use it. So you can connect three ways, either through a school counselor or an administrator. They've all been trained on how to do those warm handoffs. You can call that number there anytime, 24/7. And then you can also navigate yourself to their website and you can just anonymously search and connect that way. You don't want us to know that you're connecting? We don't need to know. We just want you to connect. So you can use any one of those resources. So I continue to remind folks that this is out there for anybody in Page to use. And then this evening, you guys received a postcard inviting you to the art show that's coming up on April 17th at Luray High. We do this every year. It's a wonderful, wonderful experience. If you haven't been, we rotate schools. Last year it was at Page. This year it's at Luray. So I hope you can make it. Come by. You don't have to stay for the 2 hours. Just come and see the amazing, I tell you, the quality of artwork from the students in this division is something else. I cannot begin to tell you how impressed I am with our art teachers and with our students and the quality of the work. This little girl my first year drew a fox. And I said to her, can I buy that from you? And she said, oh, no, my mom wants that. No. Okay. But it was the cute thing. But the quality of the work, I think, will blow you away and how talented our students are. So I encourage you to join us if you can for that event. We'll have some pictures for you next month. And then lastly, just a reminder that we are beginning spring break next week. All of our schools and offices are closed. And then we come back on Monday, April 7th. And reminder that that's a calendar change. It's no longer a student holiday. Because of all the inclement weather, we've made that a student day. So it will be a full day of student and a full day for students and staff. And we'll also be doing kindergarten registration on that day. So wishing everybody a wonderful spring break. Hopefully people can take some time to relax and take a break, rejuvenate themselves, because as Dr. Huber said, when we come back, it's on. It's getting busy, and these days will fly by, and before you know it, we're going to be talking about graduations. So just thank you to all of our faculty, staff, for all that they're doing, and I hope everybody has a wonderful spring break. That's it for tonight for me.
Yeah, I got, so I'm just trying to tie some things together, and Taylor can probably has some expertise in this as well, but when we went to the Board of Supervisors meeting, Mr. Latterback mentioned something. I think he was right in his approach, but I don't know how we were going to get them any information. And it concerned BSS and the extra things that we do as a school division. And one of the things that he wanted everybody to understand is that we know parents sometimes aren't doing the job that they should be doing. And we have to step in some of those areas. But he asked for us to give them information. And I don't know how we can do that or how that would ever be, but I think it was a great opportunity for us to say, yeah, let's work on some data that we can get to you that we're doing this extra work. And our teachers do things all the time with students that goes unnoticed, even within the school budget. But how are we going to get him that feedback? Because if I'm you, I'm saying there's no way I can do it. I can't do all this other stuff.
We can't quantify that in some ways either, because like in any given day, like what you just said, a student's going to walk in and they're not going to be themselves, and a teacher's going to ask why. And they're going to say, well, I'm hungry, or something happened at home. Or so they're going to immediately do what needs to be done. They're going to feed them, make sure whether it's from the cafeteria or it's from their own personal stash that they keep, because they don't want any child to be hungry. If the child says something happened at home, they're going to connect them with a counselor or an administrator. Unless we ask them to keep that data for us every day, I'm not going to ask them to do that. They don't need another thing on their plate. But we know those things are happening. We've talked about it in our community forums. Every principal that's talked has shared with us all the different connections and the ways they're trying to make connections with families and support families. Care Solace is a way. I mean, that's a data point we can give them.
Well, I think even Dr. Huber's data from, even at the pre-K and kindergarten level, the ability to self-regulate, that forms directly from nurturance and parent tending to needs and all of those things. So showing that we're higher but in the state, levels and everything else, aside from that right there also shows that our kids are coming in without those abilities to, and that's, as you said, that's foundational to everything else.
And it's the anecdotal things, like when we say we now have kindergarten teachers that also have to potty train students because they're not coming in, right? Yeah. We expect and we think that every parent should be able to potty train their child. But again, some parents are doing the very best that they can. Yeah. They're doing the very best that they can. And we have to pick that up. But that isn't in an SOL. That isn't in a state measure. It isn't in a federal measure. But if that child's hungry, they're not going to focus on math until they get their needs met. That's the hierarchy of it.
A lot of that data is socioeconomic, and that should be data that our supervisors do have and can look at, and then.
What data is that? The Care Solace?
No, I think that would be
Free
great.
and reduced lunch, the
Census.
census data about
Census
poverty
data.
levels. When we talk about how many students are getting free and reduced, why we're a CEP, a community lunch program. Everybody gets free breakfast and lunch. That's because our poverty rates are so high. Those are strong data points, but they also have to come with context. And a lot of times that context can only come in conversations. I can write as many letters as I want. We can do as many presentations as we want. But it's understanding the needs and what we're doing. When we presented at the forum, we had our high school school counselors present. And I think there was some shock in the room as to all the things that they do. It's not like when I was in school. And the needs and those things, they just have to be met. I don't disagree to some point with Mr. Louderback's statements, but we recognize that many parents are doing the best that they can. They need help. Sometimes they won't take our help, but when they do, we'll see success for the kids.
Well, and I appreciate what he said, okay? But what he was getting at is if we gave him the information, they can push back on DSS, that's going to push back on the parent to do the job.
It's not always
It's not-
DSS. It's like,
not even-
But listen, nothing's going to ever change if we keep staying the way the conversation we just had.
but a lot of it, to go back to what Taylor said, is socioeconomic. It's bigger, broader things. It's poverty, it's affordable housing, it's transportation.
Industry, available jobs,
It's-
employment. I mean,
Yeah, it's employment, it's infrastructure in the county. It's larger things that they could pull data for, but it not always falls back on DSS. I mean, I get what he's saying, but I also at the same time, like a lot of these things Dr. Fox was saying, they're not things that would even go to DSS. They wouldn't get there.
Well, I think too, if you're not connected in any way, shape, or form with a school, you aren't aware, and that would be his situation. And I thought too, it was interesting that he was wondering, how is this going on? But times have changed, and
But his visits to the school probably prompted that comment.
could have been.
So us getting our supervisors out to the schools
this is
That's a good.
and
Yes.
and Mrs. Moeller.
and drives to the community.
Yeah.
Yes.
Look at the conditions that some of our kids and families
Right.
and community members are living in. I mean, that's eye-opening right there.
And it's some of them, it's not for lack of trying.
No,
Right.
it's not. Yeah.
Because I'll be honest, I'm very concerned from what I've heard this week. And this is the reason for it. Just for this conversation we just had, but also in our community action forum. I heard the person from the Collins Center, and they've asked me to be on their board for page. And I don't know whether I'm going to do that or not. Hopefully my wife's not watching this meeting because it would be a no, right? But what he kept saying was, we don't want to get in the way of choices. And that made me think, well, he must think we have enough resources for all the issues that we have in Page, and that's not true at all. So when I hear what we heard in there, and I hear what we're not going to be able to get that information to them, but maybe there is some data that we can do it, and how to get them out in the schools. I'm afraid nothing's going to ever change. We're just going to keep on this treadmill or this hamster wheel. We'll be talking about it for the next 5 years. And we may end up being that way. I mean, I don't know. But I was concerned when he kept saying that. I don't know if you heard that, Taylor. It was like, well, we don't want to get in the way of choices. Well, choices is serving 5 to 7 families at max, and maybe some other, pass-through folks, right? And then you have the transactional home at ER or the rec, and that's 4 folks, and that thing's probably full. Choices is full. And then Andrea has a LLC, Valley Rise Above, that has potential of 6 folks, and that's halfway full. But folks have to do something before they get in there. So to act like we almost have it all covered, and I asked last week about the psychologist and what that was, how that's happening, and what we're paying for, what we're getting out of it. I think there's a lot of unknowns and a lot of assumptions being made that we have to dig into and find out what's going on. And some of it we own, and some of it they own as well. But I'm just concerned from what I heard, because we do not have enough resources. The Care of Solace has been a great thing, but that probably isn't reaching half the people that it needs to reach.
No, it isn't, but it's reaching.
It's reaching some,
right?
yeah. And
you got to start.
I'm not.
No, I know that. I know that. And I understand that. I think it's about educating people and understanding that, yes, while we have resources like the Collins Center and choices, they are not fixing it doesn't just magically sprinkle dust and that whole problem is solved. That doesn't happen. Because the work that it takes to recover from the trauma of the people that are going and using those resources takes a long time. It's not an overnight fix. But I think it's about helping to educate the Board of Supervisors. I think it's about, that's what the community forum has tried to do, is educate people about what are the resources, what are they doing, where are the gaps, where are the holes, how can we connect those pieces
There was
together?
plenty of gaps I've seen this week and holes.
And I think that, yeah, there's tremendous gaps and there's tremendous holes, but I'll say even to kind of bring the light to it, in the 4 years that I've been back in Page County, I think that those gaps are really, not, there's still a lot of work to do, but I think those gaps are really starting to be filled, just in the sense that, one, we're having these conversations and people that are doing different work are having those conversations too. But I mean, I'm trying to watch what I'm taking on these days. But if there's a team that would be willing, I think the data is right in front of us. So I think if they'd be willing to compile that information, I would be willing to support with that to get that to our board of supervisors.
Yeah, I think it's just putting some folks around the table. We think about what are the things that reflect what we're doing, where the holes are, what are the needs. Because when we do things like say, we need another reading specialist, or we need a school counselor or a social worker, those things aren't just because we sat around the table and said, oh gosh, what do we need? Let's make
Sounds like a great
something up.
idea, right? Yeah.
No, those are, they're data-driven decisions, and they're based on the needs that we're hearing from the school level, or from the department. So, I mean, I think we can do some things. I think it's also, you all have done a lot of work with your counterparts in the Board of Supervisors. I say keep pressing, inviting them to things, saying come. We've sent them an email and said, hey, we'll meet with you. We'll sit down as a team one-on-one and talk about the budget. I have not yet heard back from anybody. And I know they work and they have jobs and other responsibilities. I understand that. But at the same time, we can't move forward unless we have these conversations. And so, I ask you all just to keep pushing with your Board of Supervisors member. I mean, have them come to the forum. I do think there's value and worth. It probably needs a little bit of restructuring for next year, but there's value and worth in those conversations. And the Collins Center has come to our admin meeting, and I'll put Jody on the spot. I mean, I think that was valuable information for our principals to know that if they need another resource when a child has experienced that kind of trauma, that it's there. We have somebody that we can at least call. Whereas 2 or 3 years ago, we were looking at each other. Who do we turn to? Where do we go?
Yeah.
So I agree with you. There's progress being made. It may not be as fast as everybody wants, but there's little steps forward, and we can keep pushing.
Yeah, because, I mean, that's a great thing to be able to do for a child that's experiencing it right now. But I'm talking about the adults that are scattered throughout our county. Probably half of them have experienced something like that. And we do not have the resources in here to help those folks.
Well, and I think it's incumbent upon people in the community as well, because it's not just us as the division. We're not responsible for everything. We do a lot, but it's also people who see those gaps in the community for them to go and speak at the Board of Supervisors meeting, and let them know that those gaps are there and that they're seeing people who need this. How can the Board of Supervisors help with that resource? Or how can a town help with those resources? Because they have access to different grants and things that they can apply for that we can't just squeeze them in.
And I think, and that's a big part of our role as a division, is to encourage our kids to identify the things that they care about, like we saw with Waipaca, and to advocate on behalf of that. I have an 11-year-old that's about to go and advocate to the Board of Supervisors for the need for a homeless shelter. So just really having them identify this. Yeah.
Well, in the first forum we had that veteran who came and spoke about trying to get her benefits and everything from the Veteran Association and the housing situation. And there was somebody in the audience who had that connection, got him, and now they have a house, everything. So communication. And I agree, the attendance is dwindling, and I'm not sure why, but, the information that comes into those forums is just priceless. And it's so beneficial, but it's getting it out there for everybody.
I think it's some of it. Some people think that we're just going through the motion. We started it, and we've been meeting. Of course, we missed a lot of meetings. It's at least 2 meetings this year because of weather.
Right.
But it's almost, are we just going through the motions? I'd rather not go through any kind of motions. Rather, let's get some data, because the door was open to us by Mr. Loud. And Taylor, any individual groups, we could do it as well.
Yeah. Talked about it all night long, but
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, just a brief update on the superintendent's search. The announcement was put out on Monday, March 17th. It's online. There is a tab that is on the website. Applications are now being accepted. They're due 5 o'clock Friday, April 4th. They can either be submitted online through Talent Ed or postmarked and mailed to Dr. John Kidd. All of that information is on the website. If people do not feel like they want to submit online, they can be mailed. We will review the applicants and select candidates for interview in April, and then they will be interviewed by the school board and then a panel of PCPS staff members and community members. Kind of where we are right now. As of earlier this week, when I spoke to Dr. Kidd, none had been received through Talent Ed, but that was Monday or Tuesday. We'll continue to have till next Friday. Let's see, first approval of claims for payment.
Yes, good evening, board members. You have been provided with the claim certification for the operating fund is $354,088.22. Food service fund, $30,645.59. Total expenditures, $300,733.81. Along with that, you have the list of claims as well as the check registers. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer those.
I make a motion, we approve the claims for payment as presented.
Motion by Ms. Alger and a second by Ms. Bryant to approve the claims for payment as presented. Mr. Payne.
Yes.
Ms. Bryant.
Yes,
Ms. Alger.
Yes.
Jonathan Smith.
Yes.
Yes.
thank you.
Secret.
Yes, we have 3 purchase orders for your consideration this evening. The first one would be using operation and maintenance funds for a new zero-turn mower. This, my understanding, is a must, as the last one from last year is no longer, will not work at all. The next one is a subscription renewal for the LifeSpot technology. That is our alert system that we have implemented in the last 3 years. That's 575 users there. And then Chromebooks with technology funds. And I believe those are for 9th grade, is that correct? Second and 9th grade. If you have any questions, myself and or the team will do our best to answer them.
Where's the shade equipment come from?
I am not 100% sure on that. I can double check those quotes because we did get 3.
You 3 quotes.
Make the motion, we approve the payments over $10,000.
Second.
A motion by Ms. Alger and a second by Ms. Sullivan Smoot to approve the POs over 10,000. Any questions? Ms. Bryant.
Yes.
Ms. Alger.
Yes.
Mr. Payne.
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan Smith.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Painter, to answer your question, they are located in Harrisburg.
Harrison.
Yes, sir.
Sorry. Thank you.
Or I guess we can just,
You know, we just need motion and so.
okay. So approval of personnel action A.
I make a motion that we approve the personal action A.
Second.
A motion by Ms. Sullivan Smoot and a second by Ms. Alger to approve personnel action A.
I got a comment. So this is the new position that we voted on last week. And I guess the question I've got 2 of them. Who wrote the job description?
It was a team effort with us.
So with your cabinet?
Mhm.
Okay. And then I think I heard, and I kind of went back and listened to the meeting, that somehow this position is going to, if you put it in place at the central office, it's somehow going to trickle down to the other positions within our organization. And I just, do you feel that's what's going to happen? And what ways would that happen?
An example of that would be that this position would provide more oversight to help principals with oversight of custodians that in our buildings. Right now, that falls solely on principals to do, and with the number of things that they have on their plate, this would allow some of that to be taken off of their plate. This person would be responsible for that oversight. to make sure that principals custodians are doing the work that they need to do, that they have the things that they need to do. While that's partially being done, it's being done by other people who have many other things. So that's one example. Clean classroom, happy teacher, happy kids.
And who the nurses report to?
Mrs. Fleischman.
Yeah.
Yes.
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 Yeah. Approval of personnel action B.
Make a motion, we approve personnel action B.
I'll second.
Motion by Ms. Alger and a second by Ms. Sullivan Smith. Any? Ms. Alger?
Yeah.
Mr. Payne?
Yes.
Ms. Bryant?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Approval of personnel action C.
I make a motion that we approve personnel action C.
Mr. Payne?
Yes.
Ms. Bryant?
Yes.
Ms. Alger?
Yes.
Sullivan Smith?
Yes.
Yes. Approval of personnel action D.
I make a motion that we approve personnel action D.
By Ms. Sullivan Smith, and a second by Ms. Alger to approve personnel action D. Ms. Bryant?
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Seacrest, approval of resolution for educational adequacy and demographic study.
Yes, I will read the following resolution into the record. Maybe I'll bring one of these back every meeting just for fun.
Jody could read it for you.
Yeah.
Different accent every time.
Resolution to the Page County Board of Supervisors requesting adjustment of the 2024-2025 school budget for educational adequacy and demographic studies. Whereas the Page County Board is committed, the Page County School Board is committed to providing the highest quality education for all students within the school division. And whereas the completion of an educational adequacy study and demographic study is essential for determining the current and future needs of our schools. And whereas these studies will inform our strategic planning, resource allocation, and facilities improvements to ensure that our schools meet the educational standards and needs of our students. And whereas the findings from these studies will provide vital data to guide decision-making processes regarding curriculum, staffing, and infrastructure. And whereas the Page County School Board recognizes the importance of working collaboratively with the Page County Board of Supervisors in securing necessary funding for educational initiatives. And whereas the importance of these studies were discussed with the Page County Board of Supervisors on January 14, 2025 during the joint planning meeting. And whereas the estimated cost to complete the educational adequacy study and demographic study is not to exceed $225,000. Now therefore be resolved that the Page County School Board respectfully requests the Page County Board of Supervisors to appropriate funding in the amount of $225,000 to complete an educational adequacy study and demographic study, which would increase local appropriations. Below is the budget amendment table where you can see those funds will be located. This is to certify that the foregoing resolution was authorized by the Page County School Board during its regular session on Thursday, March 27, 2025. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer.
Make a motion, we approve the resolution for the educational adequacy and demographic study.
Second.
A motion by Ms. Alger, a second by Mr. Painter to approve the educational adequacy and demographic study. Ms. Alger?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Ms. Bryant?
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan Smith?
Yes.
Yes. Board member comments?
Well, I just want to start out by saying, again, after the forum on the other evening or afternoon, I am so pleased that we have the outside resources that we have that are helping. And I agree, if we could get more, that would be wonderful. But they do make a difference. And when I saw those two young guys do their duty with the PACA report. I'm familiar with one, and it's just amazing how well they did. And, you know, they're going to go someplace down the road because what they have gotten from those organizations, and just like all the different things that have been showed in presentations, like the high school students coming in and reading to the elementary, it's little things like that. You don't realize it, but they make the biggest impression ever. And it may be the turning point of a child that just turns it all around for the positive. So we can't take little things for granted because in the long run, they amount to great things. And so for everybody that's involved with creativity or doing things, pulling things in, working it out, you're to be commended because it's an everyday process. But the kids are the one who benefit. And I'm sure this young lady could go back and share different things of things that have happened over your 11 years that have, you know, made you look at something different or succeed or what have you. So I'm just very pleased with, you know, what is going on.
Go ahead. I just want to say, yeah, I mean, a lot of progress. I love the instructional update and just seeing those numbers. I love the Shenandoah's update, seeing the progress you all have made and all the great things you're doing in the building and the innovative ways that we're most of all helping our kids and helping our community. To Mr. Painter's point, absolutely, we have a long way to go, but that doesn't negate that we've come a long way. So I think there's a lot to celebrate there. Everyone enjoy tomorrow and enjoy the break and come back ready. That's all I've got.
I think that the community forums are definitely a wealth of information. However, I know speaking personally with a job, it is very difficult to make it. And a lot of the people that you're trying to reach aren't at work or they don't have transportation. And so that's a big feedback that I'm getting from some of the people that are coming because they're the people that don't necessarily need the intervention. And so, but I also understand that staff cannot work. You know, I understand why the time frame is the way that it is, but I just thought I would throw that out there because it is phenomenal information. And I know how much time and effort everybody's putting into it in order to help guide people to get the help. But it's a little tricky. Again, you know, the school system is trying its best to help remedy certain things. And like Dr. Fox said, I mean, it can't all fall on our shoulders, you know, but we are certainly making the effort and you should be praised for how hard you have been trying. So it's seen and it's appreciated. Dr. Cooper, thank you for glossary. That was great. It was great to have that reference to refer back to. Shenandoah Elementary, lots of energy, loved it. Thank you guys. All the numbers all over the place. Good for you all. I mean, it shows. And getting kids excited and happy to be there. That's obviously exactly what Page County is wanting to drive, to start early and just embed in them all of these wonderful things. So thank you all. Enjoy your spring break.
Yeah, it was a great report from Shenandoah Elementary. I know you guys have good energy. I see it when I go in there. One of the things that the Board of Supervisors asked for was, you know, and I mentioned nurses a couple meetings ago. And we got some, you know, information here. And if you look at, when you look at the enrollment, you know, like Luray Elementary is like the highest enrollment, almost 500 students. And Shenandoah, you guys are second. But when you look at the nurses, I don't know how many nurses, is it one in each? Yeah. So just, when you look at these numbers, we probably need to really look at this. Shenandoah is like averaging of a percentage of visits to the enrollment is like almost 50% of what Luray Elementary is. So Luray Elementary's nurses being, having handled a lot more folks. And when you go to Springfield, I mean, that's a significant drop in attendance with that. But yet the percentage of visits is pretty close to Luray Elementary. And I can now see why when you go to Luray Elementary, it's like your ears buzz when you leave. because you have a lot of students in small little hallways, and Springfield is less students. I think the hallways are a little bit bigger and a little bit taller at least. The sound goes away. So I think really when it comes to resources, I'm hoping, I hate to say this, that the next superintendent is going to look at some of these things and see if we're in an equitable position. I'm not saying you didn't do it. I'm just saying you're leaving and someone else is coming in. But I do believe we have some issues that we got to work out, the level load in this division. And getting to that, you know, I'm very clear on how I look at it. And the supervisors are asked that same question. We have less students and we're having more staff, but we know that we got less students, but they have more problems per student than 5-10 years ago, right? But we also have added significant salaries to the central office now. We've had 2 full-time positions and high-ranking positions and a contracted that is a lot of money. And I'm just hoping that you guys that are left over when Dr. Fox leaves, that we're going to stay on it and this stuff's going to start filtering down and getting help to the level ones who the kids are actually seeing every day. Those folks at the L1. And that's a big concern that I have. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges, I think, for the next year is how we get that. What we've invested here gets down there. If it doesn't, we made a big mistake. And we'll pay for it until we fix it. So I'm encouraged by a lot of the things I see in our division. We've improved 100% in a lot of areas, but we've also made some moves that are going to have to prove themselves out. And I've asked for that information about the psychologist that we should be monitoring. If we're paying that every week, if we are, I don't know how it's working. I've asked for that information. We should be managing it every week. We should be knowing what we're getting if we're spending the money. And if we're not spending the money, that's a whole different situation. I don't know how it works. So when you're far away, it's like making a call to on a telemarketer with an issue you got with a maintenance issue. You're not getting the same service you're getting somebody that you go to the store to. And that's where you're going to find your efficiencies.
Pretty much say it all, so I don't have to say anything. But no, great presentations. I feel like we get a lot of data, and we are really moving in the right direction. So hopefully everybody takes this time to kind of reset and recharge and come back ready, because Dr. Huber told us that we've got to come back ready because it's testing time and
19 days.
and it'll be a sprint to the finish. So hopefully everybody has a great spring break, and we'll see everybody back after the break.
Make a motion when you join.
Second.
Ooh, we have a motion by Ms. Alger and a second by Mr. Painter to adjourn.
Ms. Alger?
Yes.
Ms. Painter?
Yes.
Ms. Bryant?
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan?
Yes.
Ms. Wolf?
Yes.
Ms. York?